Hey everybody. Well, today here I am with another video on YouTube. This time I'm doing a video about my all-time favorite baseball player, Kirk Gibson. Kirk Harold Gibson, born May 28, 1957, is an American former professional baseball outfielder and manager, born in Pontiac, Michigan, who turns 69 years old tomorrow, May the 28th. He is my favorite player of all the players who I have watched in person and on TV play for my favorite team, the Detroit Tigers. I like him so much because, to me, he played the game the right way, hard. There have been other Tigers players since Gibson who played the same way, who I also loved, such as Bobby Higginson, Chad Curtis, and Robbie Grossman, but Gibby was the first. From the moment he hit that dramatic late-game home run in Game 5 of the 1984 World Series, Gibby has been my biggest baseball hero. Oh yeah, that other World Series homer he hit 4 years later was okay too, but he was on the Dodgers then. 84 was for us, Tiger fans, and to this day, every time I see a replay of him going upper deck to right field off of Goose Gossage from October 14th, 1984, when I was 9 years old, and it won me a $5 bet with my dad, until now, as I talk about it almost 42 years later, I still get goosebumps and a warm feeling all over. When I was a kid starting to learn how to play baseball, the batting stance I was taught was a carbon copy of Gibby's stance. As a left-handed hitter like him, I was taught to stick my left elbow out and hold the bat diagonally across over my left shoulder so the bat would naturally drop down into the slot when I started my swing. I copied every mannerism of Gibby's at the plate, including the way he would loop his bat around using only his right hand before locking into his stance. Like Gibby, I was a dead pull hitter who loved the low outside pitch almost as much as the low inside one. Though that one usually went foul, there were some mighty impressive shots I hit to deep right field copying Gibby. I should show you guys my stance from back in the day when I was playing. That's how I would bat, my standard stance, with the elbow out like this, so I could drop hands down into the slot and swing. Just like that. Gibson, and I would go loop my hand around like this and up here like this and put my elbow out like that, just like Gibson did back in the day, playing for the Tigers. So as I went on in baseball, I experimented with other batting stances of current at the time and former Detroit Tigers, such as Mickey Tettleton's straight up standing bat parallel with the ground at waist level stance. That was more like, I don't know if you guys can see that from this close, but I'll back up further. He kind of batted like this back here. Stood straight up like this and had the bat down here like this, flat, parallel to the ground, and then he would go back and swing like that. I copied him for a while too, Mickey Tettleton. And then I was at Tiger Stadium one time. We saw an old timers game that had Willie Horton, the former Tigers player, in it. And I saw him batting with his old stance. And he had a right-handed stance, of course. He was a right-handed hitter. Tettleton was a switch hitter, so he did both sides. But Willie Horton, he had kind of an arms away from the body, bat straight up and down stance. It's also a good one for getting the bat in the slot quickly. And I used that stance for a while too. That one there, I was more like out here with the hands, the bat straight up like this, and then I would step and drop and swing real quick. Quick hands. I always had quick hands when I batted. I was a dead pull hitter. Took me a heck of a long time to learn how to hit the opposite field until somebody threw me pitches that were so fast I couldn't get around on them anymore. But that was Willie Horton. I copied him for a while too. But I always ended up going back to Gibby's old stance as my standard stance. Yep. And I also used Al Kaline's classic stance, neutral in every way, which I called it, where he would just basically, he was a right-handed hitter too, but he just had a basic stance where he'd stood there straight, pretty square up and had the hands down here in a standard position basically, and had a pretty simple swing. And it got him over 3,000 hits, so I used that swing some of the time too. Well, I was usually when I was feeling nervous and tense. which I felt that way a whole lot playing sports in general, not just baseball. But Al Kaline's stance helped me to relax at the plate, and I always had a super high feeling of intensity when I played, which I also took from watching Gibby. I don't remember him ever charging the mound, but he would always run the bases hard, trying to take out the man at second base on the double play, making a hard slide when attempting a stolen base, or barreling over the catcher trying to knock the ball free and score on a close play at the plate. I think if Gibby was coming up today as a young player, he wouldn't be able to have as good of a career, because a lot of the things he would do on the field are against the rules now. Can't run over the catcher anymore, you can't take a guy out at second base hard. It's not the same game as it was back in 1979 or so. I always enjoyed listening to Gibby when he called Tiger games on TV as an analyst. He was an eternal optimist in terms of believing that the Tigers were never out of a game. Even when the effects of Parkinson's disease slowed his speech and eventually forced him to retire from broadcasting a couple of years ago, he could always be counted on for a hearty, "Let's go!" when the Tigers needed a come-from-behind win. He would imply by his commentary that in his mind, even if we, meaning the Tigers, don't win today, we should make it as hard on the other team to beat us as we possibly can, using any means necessary. He would always use the phrase, "find a way," when the Tigers were down. Gotta find a way, somehow, come back. And as a coach and manager, I've heard several guys who played for him say that he was the ultimate player's manager. He would literally run through a wall backing up his players, and he demanded hard work and accountability at all times. I'm just the biggest Gibby fan for all of these reasons. But now, to tell Gibby's story the only way I know how, from the beginning. He grew up in Waterford, Michigan, near Pontiac, and graduated from Waterford Kettering High School in 1975, the year I was born. He is by far the most famous baseball player from that school. Paul Fry pitched 188 games in relief between 2018 and 2022 on the Orioles and Diamondbacks rosters. Two others played pro baseball from there. Richard Maselli, don't know if he's related to Dan Maselli, an ex-Tiger pitcher, but Richard Maselli spent 2 seasons pitching in the Tigers organization at low A and single A in the early 70s, and Shane Ray pitched 4 seasons in the Royals organization up to high A from 1990 to 93 before dying tragically, aged only 23, in July of 1994. Gibson attended Michigan State University, where he was an All-American wide receiver for the Spartans football team. Gibson led the Spartans to a tie for the Big Ten Conference title, setting school and conference receiving records, starring in the Hula Bowl and Senior Bowl, and making several All-American teams. He had a chance to play in the NFL, getting drafted by the St. Louis Football Cardinals, not the baseball Cardinals, in the 7th round of the 1979 NFL Draft. At the suggestion of Spartan football coach Darryl Rogers, who later coached the Detroit Lions and my mom's favorite, the CFL's Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Gibson played for the Spartans baseball team. In his only year, Gibson batted .390 with 16 home runs and 52 runs batted in 48 games. The Detroit Tigers drafted Gibson in the first round, 12th overall of the 1978 MLB June draft from Michigan State. Only Steve Garvey, who Gibson played against in the 1984 World Series with San Diego, and Hall of Famer Robin Roberts from the Phillies, had longer MLB careers among Michigan State alumni than Gibby. Others who played more than 10 MLB seasons from there were Red Sox outfielder Rick Miller, who Gibby also played against, original New York Mets catcher Hobie Landreth, former Tigers relief pitcher Mike Marshall, whose 106 appearances is the all-time single-season record, and former Dodgers, Twins, and even Tigers reliever and Dodger pitching coach Ron Peronowski. Gibby, of course, forewent a football career and signed with his hometown Tigers. Gibson entered professional baseball with the Single-A Lakeland, Florida Tigers of the Florida State League in 1978. He batted .240 with 8 homers, 40 RBIs, and 13 stolen bases. He also walked 22 times and struck out 54 in only 54 games. He was the definition of a raw rookie. He was a new rookie, too. In 1979, he jumped AA and joined the AAA Evansville, Indiana Triplets of the American Association, where he improved his average slightly to .245, but only hit 9 home runs with 42 RBIs. He did steal 20 bases, but walked only 34 times and struck out 110. And he played, I think, 89 games, so still struggling to get his spot in baseball. High strikeout numbers would be a feature throughout his career, but he eventually became more patient at the plate. The biggest thing that got him called up and kept him in the big leagues was that he made things happen. He brought his football mentality to the baseball field. Tigers manager Sparky Anderson probably put too much pressure on Gibson when he was young by anointing him the next Mickey Mantle, but Gibson calls Sparky very much a father figure who taught him how to evolve from a hot-headed punk into a more mature man and channel his aggression towards helping his team win. Above all, Gibby was a winner, a clutch player who would do anything to win. Gibby's first MLB game. Gibson made his Major League debut on September 8, 1979 for the Tigers against the New York Yankees at Tiger Stadium in a Saturday night game. Here's the starting lineup for the Yankees in that game, announced in the style of the Tigers' great TV analyst who I grew up watching and listening to, Al Kaline. So we'd say, leading off for the Yankees, the center fielder Bobby Mercer. Batting second, Chris Chambliss at first base. The third batter, the left fielder Oscar Gamble. Batting fourth, Reggie Jackson in right field. The fifth batter, designated hitter Jim Spencer. Batting sixth, Greg Nettles at third base. The seventh batter, the catcher Jerry Narron. Batting eighth, Brian Doyle at second base, and shortstop Bucky Dent batting ninth. And on the mound for the Detroit Tigers with a record of 13 wins and 6 losses, Jack Morris. Play-by-play man George Kell would have said, the umpires for tonight's game, Larry McCoy behind home plate, at first base Joe Brinkman, Vic Voltaggio at second, and Marty Springstead is on at third base. It's a late arriving crowd, but a good crowd on hand to see the Tigers take on the Yankees at the corner tonight. The paid attendance was 30,069. After the top of the first inning, in which the Yankees took a 1-0 lead on a 2-out double to center field by Jackson, scoring Mercer from first base, who was on with a leadoff walk, Kaline would have announced the Tigers' starting lineup like this. Leading off for the Tigers, the designated hitter Ron LaFleur. Batting second, Tom Brookins at second base. The third batter, the right fielder Jerry Morales. Batting fourth, John Walkenfuss at first base. The fifth batter is the catcher Lance Parrish. Batting sixth, Lynn Jones in left field. The seventh batter, the center fielder Dave Stegman. Batting eighth, Aurelio Rodriguez at third base. And the ninth batter, shortstop Mark Wagner. And on the mound for the New York Yankees with a record of 15 wins and 7 losses, left-hander Ron Guidry. Gibson didn't get into the game until the ninth inning, pinch hitting for Stegman with the Tigers behind 5-4, 2 outs, and Steve Kemp, who singled to right field, pinch hitting for Parrish on first base. Facing his future World Series victim, Rich Goose Gossage, Gibby struck out looking, and the Tigers lost 5-4. The winning run was scored by Nettles in the 8th inning on his 2-out solo home run to deep right field off of Pat Underwood. Morris took his 7th loss, Guidry got his 16th win, and Gossage got his 14th save. Gibson spent most of his career in Major League Baseball with the Detroit Tigers, from 1979 to 1987, and then later from 1993 to 1995, but also played for the Los Angeles Dodgers from 1988 to 1990, Kansas City Royals in 1991, and Pittsburgh Pirates in 1992. He threw left-handed, but I didn't. I threw right-handed. I still do, of course. He is currently a special assistant for the Tigers in their front office and is still one of their best-loved stars. Earlier this season, on April the 23rd, it was Kirk Gibson Day at Comerica Park, and Gibson was there on the date the same as his Tigers uniform number. He wore number 23 also for the Dodgers, number 30 for the Royals, and number 25 for the Pirates. He was greeting fans and signing autographs, a true man of the people, and raising money on Parkinson's awareness for his Kirk Gibson 23 Foundation. While with the Dodgers, Gibson was named the National League MVP in 1988. During his career, he hit 2 dramatic home runs in the World Series, each one coming against an eventual Hall of Fame relief pitcher. I've already mentioned the one off Gossage, who had refused to walk him with the base open. "He don't want to walk you," Sparky yelled from the dugout as he held up 4 fingers. With the Dodgers in 1988, Gibson, too injured to play the field, faced closer Dennis Eckersley in the 9th inning of the first game and hit a pinch-hit walk-off home run, often described as one of the most exciting moments in World Series history. In fact, I have a baseball book called Baseball's Great Moments, and on the cover has Kirk Gibson with the Dodgers, because it was published right at the time, or just after the time when the 88 World Series happened, and so he was the most recent great moment in that book at the time. He was named to the All-Star team twice as a reserve in 1985 and 1988, but declined the invitation both times. Following his retirement as a player, he spent 5 seasons as a television analyst in Detroit on a station I couldn't get in London, Ontario. That was Detroit Sportsnet back then at the time. I used to watch games on Channel 4 WDIV. They didn't have Gibson as an announcer then. And then became the bench coach for the Tigers in 2003 under his good friend and former teammate Alan Trammell. Unfortunately, the team lost 119 games that year. But Gibson was on the coaching staff and taught a lot of young players a lot of good things about baseball. He became the Diamondbacks bench coach in 2007 and was promoted to interim manager in 2010 following the mid-season dismissal of current Tigers manager A.J. Hinch. On October the 4th, 2010, the Diamondbacks removed the interim label, naming Gibson their manager for the 2011 season, during which he was the NL Manager of the Year. He served as the Diamondbacks manager until September 26, 2014. His managerial record is 353 wins and 375 losses, a winning percentage of .485. Gibson returned to the broadcast booth in 2015, this is the part I remember, when he was broadcasting for the Tigers as a part-time commentator for Tigers TV broadcasts, and was named a regular television analyst for the Tigers in 2019. Gibson was the American League Championship Series MVP in 1984 for his performance in Detroit's 3-game sweep of the Royals that put them in the World Series against the Padres. He won a Silver Slugger Award in 1988 and has been named a legend of Dodger baseball. He hit 3 home runs over the right field roof at Tiger Stadium. June 14, 1983 off Mike Brown of the Red Sox, September 10, 1986 off Chris Bosio of the Brewers, and May 1, 1994 off Jack McDowell of the White Sox. Gibson's career statistics include a 38.4 WAR, wins above replacement, 5,798 at-bats, 1,553 hits, 255 home runs, a .268 batting average, 985 runs scored, 870 RBIs, 284 stolen bases, 352 on-base percentage, 463 slugging average, 815 on-base plus slugging, OPS, and 123 OPS plus, which is 100 being an average player in the major leagues, so 123 is above average. 123 OPS plus in 1,635 games over 17 seasons. Gibby's best game. The best game Gibby played in his entire career in terms of the most hits he got in any game was a 5-hit game on May 14, 1982 against the Minnesota Twins. This was an 11-inning game at Tiger Stadium, which the Tigers won 4-2, and Gibby went 5 for 6 with a home run and 4 singles, scored a run, knocked in 2 runs, and was caught stealing. He had 8 total bases in the game, and he was batting .301 after this game. The game took place on a Friday night. Gibson batted third in the starting lineup and played center field. He singled off Pete Redfern in the first inning, singled again off Redfern in the third, singled again off Bobby Castillo in the 7th, and was caught stealing second by catcher Tim Laudner and shortstop Ron Washington, singled again off Castillo in the 9th, and hit a walk-off 2-run homer in the 11th off Terry Felton. Gibby's last game. The last of Gibby's 1,635 regular season games came on August 10, 1995, against the Texas Rangers. Tigers lost 7-2 at the ballpark in Arlington on a Thursday night before 32,084 fans. Only one player in the game that night was on the Tigers when Gibby made his debut almost 16 years before. That was second baseman Lou Whitaker, who batted second in the lineup. Gibson started the game at designated hitter and batted 5th. The rest of the infield had Cecil Fielder, Big Daddy, at first base, batting cleanup, Chris Gomez at short, batting 7th, and Travis Fryman at third, batting 3rd. In the outfield was Bobby Higginson in right, batting 6th, Chad Curtis in center, leading off, and Milt Kyler in left, batting 9th. Behind the plate was John Flaherty, batting 8th, and starting on the mound for the Detroit Tigers, Felipe Lira with a record of 7 wins and 7 losses. The Texas Rangers had one former Tiger in their starting lineup, designated hitter Mickey Tettleton batting cleanup, and one future Tiger, Ivan Rodriguez, catching and batting 5th. Their infield featured Will Clark at first, batting 3rd, Mark McLemore at second, batting 7th, Benji Gill at short, batting 9th, and Mike Pagliarulo at third, batting 8th. They had Rusty Greer in right batting sixth, Otis Nixon in center leading off, and Lou Frazier in left batting second. Starting on the mound with a record of 1 win and 9 losses was Dr. Death, Danny Darwin. He must have been in a bad mood that night, being 1-9. The umpiring crew was all different from the one in Gibby's debut game. Durwood Merrill was behind the plate calling balls and strikes, Chuck Merriweather was at first, Ted Hendry at second, and Drew Coble on at third base. Gibby went 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout in his last game, finishing 1995 with a .260 batting average. His last at-bat ended much like his first did, as he struck out looking on 1-2 against Dennis Cook, leading off the 7th. His turn came up again in the 9th, but Sparky, who was in his first year managing the Tigers when Gibby debuted, and was now in his last, pinch hit Juan Samuel for him. So from Rich Gossage to Dennis Cook, such was the arc of a career that lasted 17 seasons and 1,635 regular season games. Top 3 and bottom 3. So after all that, who were the teams that Gibby did best against, and who did he struggle against the most? Interestingly, he had the most success against the Montreal Expos, hitting .347, 34 for 98 in 26 games against them. Second was the Chicago Cubs at .307, 35 for 114 in 28 games. And third was the St. Louis Cardinals, .301, 25 for 83 in 23 games. All National League teams. And the team that gave him the most trouble was the San Diego Padres, 155, 16 for 103 in 28 games. Next, ironically, was the Detroit Tigers, 167, 5 for 30 in 8 games. He must have been trying too hard. And his third worst team, another one that he played for, the Pittsburgh Pirates, 209, 19 for 91 in 24 games. You can't say he was trying too hard to impress against them, however, when he faced the Pirates with the Dodgers. He hadn't played for them yet. Cards. Now, this will be interesting. I got lots of cards of Kirk Gibson here, although he had a total of 1,911 cards that he has had produced on him over his, not just over his career, but after his career too. A total of 1,911 trading cards have been produced to date on Kirk Gibson between 1981 and 2026. I only have 7 of them, with 1 double, between 1988 and 1992. So first off, we have 1988 Topps number 429, which is a Tigers Leaders card. Picture of Gibson with Alan Trammell at Tiger Stadium right there. Getting ready before a game. And on the back it does have the Detroit Tigers 1987 team leaders. And Gibson is on here, having led the Tigers in stolen bases that year with 26. Yeah, that's one category he led the Tigers in that year. Now we have 88 Topps number 605, which is worth 99 cents. According to Trading Card Database. Here's 88 Topps number 605, Gibson on the road, playing against, I don't know who. There's a dugout in the background, but I cannot tell what team is sitting in the dugout. And of course the crowd, you can't tell what stadium that is because it's fuzzy. But it could be a lot of stadiums. Anyway, it says on the back that Kirk Gibson lived in Lapeer, Michigan at the time this card was made. And it says Kirk was a key factor in Evansville's capture of the 1979 American Association title. In the playoffs, he had a .429 batting average with 4 doubles in 6 games. Right on. Minor league success for the Gib man. Next up, we have 89 Topps number 340 at $1.20, and this is the one that I have doubles of. So anybody wants one, it's $1.20. There we go, 2 copies of that sucker. A road picture with the Dodgers right there. And again, there's a dugout in the background. And I want to say that's the New York Mets in the background there. It kind of looks like the Mets jerseys. Sitting on the bench. It's pretty fuzzy, but it looks a little like the Mets jerseys back there. I don't know. This one says, Kirk played baseball in 1 season at Michigan State University, batted .390 with 16 home runs and 52 RBIs in 48 games. Wonder if that's where the site that I looked at got their info from. And then we have another card from 1989 Topps, which is Kirk Gibson's All-Star card with the Dodgers. And there it is, a home picture of Gibson with his home jersey on. And on the back of this one has National League leaders from 1988 in runs scored, and Gibson was second in the league in runs scored that year behind Brett Butler of the Giants. Gibson had 106 and Butler had 109 runs scored. It says All-Star pinch hitter Kirk Gibson went 3 for 5 with game-winning RBI and 5-2 win at Montreal, 5/27/88, May 27th. His homer produced game-winning RBI, May 29th of 88. So there you go, doing damage against the Expos, just like it said in my top 3 and bottom 3. And now, here's 1990 tops. Number 150. There's a home picture of Gibson in his Dodgers uniform and a batting helmet. Right on. This one on the back says Kirk's 2-strike, 2-out, 9th inning pinch homer gave Dodgers 5-4 win in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series, which I talked about before. Indeed. And it has him being 6'3" and 215 pounds on this card. Still living in Lapeer, Michigan at the time. And that card is worth $1.50. Next we have 1991 tops, number 490, which is only worth 10 cents for some reason. I don't know why. But here it is. It's a road picture of Gibson following through on a swing with the Dodgers, of course. Another dugout in the background. Can we decipher whose this is in the background? I think that's a Dodgers dugout. Well, it looks like a home team though. White uniforms in the background, so it's not the Dodgers, because obviously that's a road Dodgers jersey that Gibson's wearing. I wonder if that's the Mets again. Possibly. They do have a blue dugout. They did have a blue dugout at Shea Stadium back then. And here it says, Kirk and his wife have 2 sons, Kirk and Kevin, Kirk Jr. And I do have some stuff on that. His personal life in here. It says Gibson married Joanne Sklarski on December the 22nd, 1985 in a double ceremony where Tiger pitcher Dave Rozema married Joanne's sister Sandy. The Gibsons reside in Grosse Pointe, Michigan today and have 4 children, Colleen, Cam, Kirk, and Kevin. Cam was drafted by the Tigers in the 5th round, 160th overall in the 2015 MLB draft from Michigan State. Kevin is a defenseman for the Fort Wayne Comets in the East Coast Hockey League. Gibson is an avid deer hunter. He and former teammate David Wells, along with former pitcher Jake Peavy, own a 1,300-acre hunting ranch in northern Michigan. I remember Gibson sharing videos of him and Rozema golfing and hunting during Tiger game broadcasts. Gibson was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2015 and has led a public battle against it with TV commercials from his foundation showing him working out in the gym and staying active to fight its symptoms. Now back to the cards. We got one more card to show you guys, and this one is 1992 O-Pee-Chee Canadian card with the Kansas City Royals right there on the road. Again, following through on a swing. Once again, no idea which stadium that is, but it looks a little bit like the California Angels ballpark. All those red seats in the background. And this one says he was 6'3", 225 pounds, and lived in Grosse Pointe, Michigan at that time. So that's where he lives now, too. And that is card number 720 from 1992 O-Pee-Chee. And that card is worth 20 cents. There are actually 2 versions of the 91 Topps card that I showed you. There's one with a dark logo, which I don't own, which is worth 15 cents. And the one that I do own, which is more common, I guess, is worth 10 cents. And so, that is just about it for today on Kirk Gibson, although I do have this magazine here that I have, which is an old yearbook from the Tigers. It's a magazine, not exactly a yearbook. It's the Tigers magazine that you get at the stadium, Tiger Stadium, well, Comerica Park at this time. But they gave them out, didn't give them out. This one was $5. But yeah, at Comerica Park back in 2005, when Gibson was a coach for the Tigers, and Alan Trammell was the manager. There's a picture of the coaching staff of the Tigers in there, featuring Gibson in there, in the back row, the top right there. Putting my finger right over his face. That's Gibson. There's Bruce Fields there, the hitting coach. Bob Cluck, the pitching coach, right there. And then Trammell sort of in the middle there. Juan Samuel is on the, I guess, left on this view that you guys have. And Lance Parrish is in the back there. Sort of behind Samuel and Trammell. Yep, did I miss anybody? Let me see. Oh, yep, Mick Kelleher. He was the second guy in the front between Trammell and Bruce, Bruce Fields. There's Bruce Fields right there. Mick Kelleher is there. And then Trammell in the middle. And Juan Samuel is over here on the very far end of the picture. All right. Yes, sir. He was the bench coach of the Tigers at the time. So there you go. Gibson. Right on. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video about my favorite all-time Tiger and baseball player, Kirk Gibson. I sure did enjoy talking about him for you, and I will be back in a while with another video, which is going to be about my all-time favorite rock and roll singer, John Fogerty, and CCR, of course, my favorite band. And I will be singing in that video a song called Bad Moon Rising. Yes, sir, because I've already sung Lodi, which is my favorite CCR and Fogerty song, on a video before, so I'll pick a different one this time and do Bad Moon Rising. But that one will be next. And then after that, I'll do one on my favorite actor, Clint Eastwood. And then finally, after all that, I'll get back to working on my tribute video to one of the recently deceased former Major League Baseball players. But for now, I'll say thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day, and we'll see you soon, everyone. Bye now.